So the Copenhagen Centre on Energy Efficiency's knowledge management system was launched in EE Global last month, and I wanted to talk about some of the components of the knowledge management system. We did some market analysis to try and understand what people wanted. A quarter of them said that they currently used the knowledge management system. Most people didn't, and then we wanted to find out, well, okay, if there was a knowledge management, what would you like included? Are interested in best practice, policies and programs, publication reports, funding opportunities, finding an expert on energy efficiency, websites and events. So we use this information to help develop it. And some of the other questions we asked was, in relation to having an energy efficiency expert, what sectors would you like them to be an expert in? So all those big sectors, and including finance, was something that countries wanted some assistance on. So that was the basis of what we developed, and I'll show you very briefly shortly what's in the knowledge management system. But some of the key features of what we've developed, certainly an area for experts, web resources, tools, funding, and user content. So these also have cross-searching abilities, so you can actually search across all these different things. And we are connected to a number of other databases. So the Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency database, or REGAL, the Global Building Performance Network, we're linked directly to that, and we're actually managing that database. We're linked to Build Up, the Clean Energy Solutions Centre, and ACEEE. So we are linked to a number of different websites. At the moment we're looking at, and we're talking to the Institute for Industrial Productivity. We're going to be taking over that website as well, so we're going to be hosting that. So that's going to be directly accessible to through this knowledge management system. So we weren't out to sort of replicate everything that was out there, but really try and connect the different sources of information that countries said we wanted. As you heard earlier from me, that the objective of the SE for All program is to double global energy efficiency program. So this is really a platform for everyone in the world to access energy efficiency information, knowledge, best practices very easily. So it's quite a simple database, and it's going to build over time as more knowledge and information gets shared. This is way too detailed for what you need to understand, but one of the functions of this knowledge management system, we've got a review process to review all the content that goes in. One of the interesting things that we've got in is a climate tag, and so whatever publications, reports goes into the system, we can run it through this climate tag, and it pulls out all the keywords for us automatically and puts the report up there. So, we've tried to automate the process as much as we can in that regard. We've also got sort of feeding news and events information into that, into the knowledge management system. So this KMS on energy efficiency, as you've heard, has been informed by a stakeholder survey. It's supporting action and implementation of energy efficiency globally, and we're going to have sort of various launch and dissemination events in 2016, and really try and keep building this knowledge management system. You'll hear shortly from Paolo about the European system in place, and we want to connect with that, and we're talking to them about how we can sort of complement and share information on our platforms. So with that, I wanted to just briefly show you the knowledge management system. It's got the search area here, and you've got these areas that I talked about, the key sort of components. Where experts can register them, because then you can search within sectors and within regions. And as I said, we're linked to the Global Building Performance Network, and we're actually hosting that network as well on our server. You can see we've got applications that you think might be interested about where you can access funding. CTCN earlier, so that's one of the details you can find about what's being offered for funding. And then there's this user content. So if I click here, so user content can be used for a range of purposes. So here, the Copenhagen Centre with the partners of energy efficiency in buildings. So it's a collection of best practices, all the different activities going on in the accelerator that people can easily access. And I also mentioned earlier about UNIDO, the workshop I went to, and they were talking about a whole range of best practices in the industrial sector. So we're going to create a collection of all these best practices on the industrial sector so they're easily accessed for people and they can share this information. And so anyway, that was just a bit of a snapshot of what's there. I encourage you to have a look if you wish to register. Newsletters of recent international things that the Copenhagen Centre is involved in, so we can also help promote news and activities elsewhere. So obviously there's a lot of information. I just encourage you to have a look, and there's the link. So feel free to have a look and yeah, thank you. We might move to the next presentation. So that's the Copenhagen Centre's knowledge management system. So now we're going to hear from Paolo Bertoldi from the European Commission's Joint Research Centre about the European Energy Efficiency Platform.
For a colleague of mine, Isabella Maschi, is the project manager for this new activity, and she couldn't travel, so she asked me to present it. Energy efficiency is a priority in the political agenda of the European Commission. So we all know the different policy papers, the Energy Union, which has a pillar on energy efficiency. Also the research program at the European Commission, the set plan, looks very much now into energy efficiency. There is more need for data analytics to guide the policy process in Brussels. And, but we recognize also that energy efficiency has so many different aspects that it's difficult to connect all the expert policy at national, local, and EU level. Sometimes we just talk about products, sometimes about buildings, sometimes about financing, which is horizontal. So it's a complex matrix. And try to make the link is not easy. There are already a number of websites out there and data sources at the European level, not to mention the international one, like, for example, our colleagues in Eurostat, Your database, PPIE, and Build Up, Biggie, some projects even financed by the Intelligent Energy for Europe or Horizon 2020. So the data basically is out there, but is very much scattered by sectors, by country, by sometimes down at city levels, and is not comparable, is not consistent. As I say, a lot of time we work only with the national European statistics. So what we want to know, sometimes at local level, we don't find data. If we want to look at the city level, what is the status of the buildings, the consumption. And also sometimes it's difficult to use this data. Maybe are published in PDF. They are not available for an Excel file, for example, to do further analysis. And our aim is to foster a cooperation among all the researchers or expert or consultant that have data, including the major database that I mentioned in the previous slides. Basically, our aim is to get access to the data, create a network of knowledge, and also the community of experts in different topics. They can talk, they can search for data, they can search for other experts in such a way that they can work together. And we offer this service as a new connecting website at European level, such a way that we hope we can pull resources together and join the information that is, as I say, very much scattered around. And our idea and key starting point was that we are not just another database where you can download. It's mainly a system where you can upload your research, your own data, provided that are somehow some good data that have been somehow validated, or we can offer the system of validation through peer review. So really the novelty is this. It's not just another place where you can find information. Yes, you can find information, but we really insist on the fact that we want your information on this website. Coming from all levels, you are a national policymaker, you are a university researcher, you are a manufacturer, you can always add your data on efficiency, market sale of appliances, efficiency of buildings, consumption in cities. And we call it European Energy Efficiency Platform, E3P. We have a website, which is surprisingly enough not very different from our colleague in Copenhagen. We have made three major parts. Unfortunately, the screen is not so big. There is the data hub where you can upload, download data. A wiki where you can upload or download many reports, information about events. And then you can create a community of experts on specific topic. You want to study sustainable urban transport. You can make a call. Are there other experts in this area that want to work with me, share knowledge, start a research project, whatever. So these are the three main components of our new website and database. And of course, we also deal with thematic area. The classic one that we tackle in energy efficiency, building, products, which means appliance, lighting, motors, transport and mobility, urban areas, so energy efficiency at the urban level, try to have a more holistic approach, but a local approach, industry, and then energy efficiency in generation distribution of energy. You can already explore our website. We already uploaded some of the GRC latest reports, for example, on financing energy efficiency renovation in buildings, on the renovation strategy according to Article 4 of the ED, with some data. And we already start also some community. For example, there is already a work ongoing on energy location, try to have data at the local level, mainly coming from smart meters, and then bring this data into a GIS system to show trends at the local level in energy consumption, energy efficiency. And there's already a call for experts who wanted to work on this topic and join this group. But other groups can be created, not just by the GRC staff, by whoever is registered in this website and want to start something with. Also, let's say, we mentioned sectorial, or if you want, vertical topics, buildings, appliances, but we have also horizontal topics, finance, for example, one, behavior, policy analysis. But you can always create something new that match your research interests. And of course, you can share your data, as I say, your knowledge, or create a working group. And these are the some of the process you have to follow. And as I said, these icon and thematic groups, you can also always find them throughout the website. So, for example, a data set will have some of these icons to identify the data sets related to buildings or to product or to boats. And the same for reports. As an example, these are some reports. It's very difficult to read from you down there. But these reports is relevant for buildings, industry, transportation, power generation, because in fact it's energy saving calculation for under the Article 7 of the Energy Efficiency Directive, so very horizontal reports. Some, but when we talk about the financing building innovation, it's about financing, which is the euro side, and there is a small icon of a household, sorry, a home. Let's carry on. So this is a ColorX published, and say more can be created. There is already a team dedicated at the GRC. I'm not directly involved. I basically am a data provider with my own research and different topics, but these are more coordinator IT expert that set up the IT infrastructure, design the database, and the web interface. You may ask, why are we doing this? There are already so many websites. We believe that at European level, something like this was missing. There is always a continuous request for data. Sometimes the data go from one report to the other. Everybody is quoting the previous one, but we don't know where they come from. So we want to have more relevant data, more accessible data, more peer-reviewed data. Let's say combining the different type of source of data. Coming, for example, we run the Covenant of Merit initiative. We get a lot of data from cities. They can be entered, and you can compare, for example, the local situation with the national situation, or the national situation with the European situation. It's very important to have this data because, for example, as you know, all the policy in Brussels are now decided with a very strict and coherent impact assessment, which has to have the fact, the evidence of impact of policies, and if you don't have data, it's very difficult to calculate this impact. But we also believe that it's not just the official statistical data, also manufacturers have data. If I want to know how many LED lamps are sold in Europe, or how many A-class, A++ data, there are some, of course, consultancy that sells data, but why not asking directly the manufacturer to upload this data? National data sometimes is available in national language and not easily accessible, like, for example, some market share of sales of appliances, or the number of refurbished buildings, or the result of the French white certificate, just to say, give some examples. Of course, the principle is that it can be shared. The source has to be acknowledged, and this is the key principle. So it's not that somebody owns and sells this data. If they upload the data with us, it should be made available to the whole community. A lot of questions are how to guarantee that data are good. I think the best thing is to create a peer review system as we have for publications, scientific publication journals. So first there will be a first scrutiny by GRC, but then the community can discuss if these data are good, if maybe are biased because they're coming from a specific source which has some commercial interest. Of course, if something is not accepted by the community, can be always unpublished if not appropriate for the system. There will be certainly a lot of overlaps. As I would say, for example, Odyssey and Muir have an extensive database, so we're already discussing with them, and we do not want to cover what they have already have publicly available. So we will link to their database, for example, Muir, or to their data source for Odyssey. But also with the colleague, in fact, at the UN Center in Copenhagen, we should discuss a more technical. Maybe I know Isabella wanted to send me, but most likely she will visit in Copenhagen to exactly understand how we can cooperate and also recognize that you have a more global dimension. We are more focused on Europe. So we are still in the building process because it's not easy to create such a system. It's been already 2 years operation, but now we basically launched the system, but still more work is to be done, especially putting inside the data. At the beginning, we decided to concentrate on buildings and products. Products is much easier because there is already a lot of good data. On buildings is the priority for the European Union to act on energy efficiency in buildings. There is also a building observatory is collecting a lot of data. It was a Horizon 2020 founded project. We don't know what is going to happen at the end of the project, which is very soon, it's really the second phase, but we aim to most probably acquire all the data and make available through our web portal if you want. And then we will we focus on sorry, I went too fast, on buildings and products. We really want to have a data expert and content, and you're all invited to contribute to our website. The second phase, we also open up to other topics after December this year, as the transportation, for example, as it's been indicated as a priority, but also industry. And of course, we always want to increase the number of experts participating. We want to receive a lot of feedback on our website, and saying it's really useful, it's working, do you think of something missing that we can further develop? And I would like to end with a quote that energy efficiency with good knowledge. I think is always this point that we can have good data as they do in production or traditional fossil fuels or renewables, but we know it's much more complex, our field of activities. It's so much scattered data that depends from sales of lamps to behavior of people to policy to major investment decision by large company governments. And if we don't have all this data somehow connected and making sense, giving a bigger picture, we are lost, and it's very difficult to compete with other policy sectors which are much more delimited, defined, and much better organized than us. So we hope this contribution can be felt for you, for the community of experts, and for policymakers. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks, Paolo. It's great. You know, we're both talking about these knowledge management systems. We might take questions at the end, but we both talked about knowledge management systems, and you can see that there's a big focus on collaboration and working together. So that's pleasing to see. The third and final speaker for this session on knowledge tools and energy efficiency is my colleague Ksenia Petrichenko, talking about mapping building tools for policy development in cities. Thanks, Ksenia.
Thank you, Tim. We heard about two big platforms on energy efficiency information. I'm going to focus now a little bit more on buildings. This is the collaborative work which C2E2 is doing with the World Research Institute, and Tim mentioned that we have this Global Efficiency Accelerator platform, and there is a Building Efficiency Accelerator led by WRI, who's focusing on providing advice and capacity building for policymakers and experts at the city level, specifically focused on the building sector. Part of this work is analytical tools and providing guidance for city governments on how to develop and implement energy efficiency policies and projects. So the aim of this particular work was to analyze and map publicly available tools and resources on energy efficiency in buildings in order to assist local policymakers in their accelerating energy efficiency and policy development. And as Paolo mentioned, there is a lot of data and there is also a lot of tools, but they're quite scattered, so many policymakers do not know how to navigate in this pool of information. So we thought it would be very useful to provide some sort of a navigation or guidance for them. These are the tools which we have collected or selected so far based on certain indicators. First of all, they should be publicly available, so these are free tools or mainly free tools. They should have some sort of a relevance to the city level, as Building Efficiency Accelerator mainly focusing on city level, with certain link to the national government as well. Scope of these tools can be both targeting projects on energy efficiency in buildings as well as policy, and we try to categorize those tools based on the stage of policy development cycle, which I will talk about on the next slide. So far we have about 40 tools, and this is an ongoing exercise, so if you have information on additional tools which are not in the list, we will be very interested to hear from you and possibly include it as well. Results of this analysis are going to be published, and as the first step, there is a report which has been launched last month by WRI on accelerating building efficiency, and there is an annex specifically focusing on the tools which describe some of this work very shortly. We are hoping to issue as well a working paper by end of summer, which will in more detail present the tools which we have selected and how they can be used. So a few words about this policy cycle. The idea is that local governments or policymakers might have different problems or challenges to overcome at different stages of their policy development. So we thought it would be important to show what kind of tools can be used at different stages. And we simply identified 5 main stages, which you can see: scoping of policy development, identification and prioritization of policy options, policy design or project design, and implementation of policies or projects, and evaluation and reporting. As I said, there is a differentiation between project tools, which are mainly focusing on construction or renovation of particular buildings or building portfolios, and policy tools, which are really aiming at policy instruments and policy development. As a result of this exercise, we tried to map the tools along this policy cycle, as well as the main questions which policymakers might have along this process. So at the first stage, when it comes to scoping of the local context and and figuring out what are the main policy instruments can be relevant for a particular city, it is important to establish a baseline for or investigate what is the status of energy efficiency. And at this stage, there are some tools which can be helpful. You can see in blue, for example, we list here common carbon metric, gray tool. There are some tools which can help to access some proxy data on trace tool developed by World Bank. It has a number of indicators for different cities across the world, because data collection can be a significant barrier for different cities, but proxy data can give them a starting point. Then, of course, it is important to identify the barriers to energy efficiency, which may vary from one city to another, and it also determines what kind of policy instruments can be selected as a priority areas. Driving Transformation Report by WRI, IPCC, IEA, Governance Handbook, they have certain information and guidance how to link energy efficiency barriers to certain policy instruments, which can help policymakers to select these relevant policy instruments. At the next stage, it leads to the next stage when policy instruments can be identified and prioritized, and there are certain tools which can help for them at this stage as well. I'm not going to go through all of them, but just to mention, WRF has a building policy assessment tool, which is a stakeholder exercise where it's more like a brainstorming exercise where different stakeholders from different groups come together, and through this tool guides them from through the process to identify what can be priorities for policy development in this particular city. So that's the second stage, identification. The next stage is policy design. At this stage, there are also certain sources presenting guidance on how policies can be developed, how they interact with each other, what are the preconditions for certain policy instruments to be implemented, as well as important source of information is databases on existing policy practices. IEA has a number of databases which collect different existing policies in different regions and different countries, which can be a very valuable source of information. A very important topic is energy efficiency multiple benefits. And again, IEA has a report on multiple benefits, but there are also other guidebooks and actually tools which can help to assess what are the other benefits of energy efficiency improvements in a particular context, not only city but country, for example, which also important to take into account when we talk about policy design. The next stage is implementation, and here we distinguish between, as I said, project and policy tools, because implementation can be in terms of policies, but it can also result in actual building projects. And here tools are quite different. There are simulation tools for building design or building renovation, separately for new buildings, for specifically targeting retrofit buildings, or certain modular tools can be targeting retrofit buildings, and see how different energy efficiency solutions can result in energy savings or greenhouse gas emissions reductions. There are also tools which cover this implementation stage in terms of the policy guidance. Here is few are mentioned, and I will show an example as well at a later stage. And the last stage, and this is probably very important for this workshop as it is linked to the evaluation conference, is the evaluation and reporting, or tracking the progress of how much, of what is going on, how energy efficiency is being implemented, what kind of results are being delivered, and how it can be tracked. And again, we distinguish between policy and projects. When it comes to policies, there are different ways of approaching this tracking. There are several tools which allow you to create scenarios and estimate how much energy savings resulting from different scenarios based on different energy efficiency improvements. There are tools which give the opportunity to create inventories and estimate greenhouse gas emissions reductions, and so on and so forth. We are, in our working paper, we are planning to create very short snapshots or descriptions of these tools to allow to navigate across this great number of the tools and show what kind of opportunities each tool can present. Tim mentioned that on our knowledge management system there is a collection of building efficiency webinars. And actually this particular topic on tools has been covered under 3 webinars. In November last year, then we had another webinar in March, and the third one actually last week. These webinars are also structured across these different stages which I described, these 5 stages of policy development cycle. The one in November covered first 2 stages, scoping and identification. In March we talked about policy design, and last week we spoke about implementation stage. So we'll have one more webinar specifically on tracking and evaluation sometime during summer or maybe in beginning of September. In this webinar, the idea is that we're trying to inform about this mapping exercise and call for expertise and new tools to be included, as well as we present some case studies of specific tools from each of the stages. And I still have time to tell you about case studies which we covered so far. So in our first webinar, which was on scoping and identification, we looked at several tools, including common carbon metric and trace tool from World Bank. A few words about common carbon metric. It was developed by UNEP SBCI as a tool to measure energy use and greenhouse gas emissions in buildings. Or it also was supposed to be used as the CCM protocol. It's Excel-based tool, very simple. It's mainly targeting developing countries. That's why the simplicity was the key element of it. It distinguishes between top-down and bottom-up approach, so it can provide evaluation on the national level or city level, as well as for particular buildings or buildings portfolio. And it has a number of indicators. For energy use, it's kilowatt per square meter, and for CO2 emissions, it's CO2 per square meter or per occupant. In our next webinar, we looked at different tools, including Big EE platform by Wuppertal Institute, as well as Handbook for Sustainable Energy Policies by UNEP, and a number of IEA tools were presented there. With the focus on buildings, there is a policy and measures database where buildings is part of it, as well as you're probably familiar with 25 policy recommendations, where building sector is also one of the sectors they cover. IEA also has a specifically building energy efficiency policy database, publication on multiple benefits of energy efficiency, and publications on energy efficiency indicators. And in our third webinar, when we spoke about implementation, there were several tools again. One of them was EDGE by IFC, Excellence in Design for Greater Efficiencies. And this is also a very simple tool, which is focusing on certain building and allows you to see how much energy saving basically coming from different energy efficiency solutions. There is a list of standardized energy efficiency solutions which can be chosen, and in real time in an interactive manner you can see how much energy savings you can get from combination of different solutions. They also have a certification mechanism, so the certification program is attached to this tool, which allows to certify buildings which were evaluated using this tool. And as I said, there is this report, here you can see much better, from World Resource Institute. C2E2 collaborated along other authors to put together tools. This is only one part of it. You can see more information on particular actions on energy efficiency in buildings. It's called 8 Actions for Urban Leaders. It has a lot of best practices, examples, which can be interesting for you. And just to sum up the presentation, as we spoke, that there is a lot of tools available already, and this tool is actually growing. Nowadays, everyone wants to have their own tool, but we decided to consolidate this information, provide a certain roadmap around these sources. Different tools can be used at different stages of policy development and support energy efficiency projects and policies. And we call for collaboration on this in this field in order to cover as many publicly available tools as possible and provide this information to city governments, other experts. Their use.
Thanks, Ksenia. We've got about 10 minutes for some questions, so I'll ask Paolo to come up as well. And I know we had a question after Paolo's presentation, but yes.
Everybody is of Visual Research Institute in Belgium. Just have a question about the platform. How can you make sure, or how can you stimulate the uploading of data to the website? My idea would be that Horizon 2020 proposals would be forced to upload data in the field of energy, which is unstimulated within a database.
Yes, there's in fact an idea that we have in mind. We're discussing with a colleague in the agency managing Horizon 2020 to collect this data. A lot of very interesting projects have their own website that where they publish at least a report, but sometimes even the data. But this, at the end of the project, many of these websites disappear, so we lose a lot of data and knowledge gathered through the life of these projects, and it's a pity. And even more, a lot of projects publish reports with sometimes even data attached to them, but in PDF. So it's very difficult to use this data to do further analysis. So we should force every project to, as is financed by the European Union, to supply raw data in a manner that this can be then utilized by other researchers. And this could also prevent sometimes the duplication. I mean, somebody does a project and then a new project in some topic start and discuss start from scratch collecting data. One has been already done by another project. Topics that are energy efficiency obligation, energy performance contracting. I see a lot of different projects always going around and searching for the same data with questionnaire usually. So yes, what you're suggesting we're already thinking about.
So does it mean that there is already a template to supply data? Or?
Yeah, the template is there. We're still in the testing phase. So if your data, contact me or my colleague Isabella, and we can guide through and discuss how the best way to track the data and send it to us. That's the flow.
And this template will be submitted to any new Horizon 2020 project?
As I say, we open going that way. We're still discussing with the project officer.
Is there any other questions?
Yeah. That's a question for both platforms. Is it possible for users to put some comments? They see some data, for example, and they want to add a comment, or they see a mistake maybe somewhere. How does it work?
Yeah, certainly we got a similar review system. I didn't go through the whole architecture, but certainly there's opportunities to identify articles, provide comments, provide a source of new information, but also again, if there's incorrect information, both platforms can take that information down, which is really important.
So it means that, for example, below the data you have a space where you can see the comments of previous users, or are the comments that can be seen by other users, or you are the only ones to see the...
We can approve the comments to go up there, but we need some filtering mechanisms that were reviewed on it. They're available, but we just need to make sure that, that sort of everything's checked to make sure that it doesn't automatically. So I think that both platforms have a review process in place.
Yeah, we have exactly the same process. And it's very important. I really very much like to have, I would say more than comments, it's peer review process. So like when you peer review a paper, so saying, I believe there's something wrong with this data, can you explain this point, where you collected the data, how you collected the data. I have a different set, so maybe we can discuss why the data are different. This kind of constructive comments. Of course, if the data are completely rubbish, we try to get this up by yourself, but somebody else can also point at this.
Any other questions? Yes.
Is that a privacy problem for you, or resilience? I mean, there are lots of things that maybe some data from individuals shouldn't be housed, for example, shouldn't be online, or for example, industries do not want to have their data because then you maybe know their process, for example. And it's a challenge for you, either now or in the future.
I suppose in relation to the knowledge management system, we want to put up publicly available data. So if there's commercially in confidence data that people are selling on that, we wouldn't put that data up. So we put up publicly available data, and we wouldn't put up that commercial in confidence data. And that's why we've got this reviewing process, and it's the same.
Yeah, I think we are even rely on you or the end user to put in his own data. So we do not go and put data that we found that it might be proprietary data, but we ask the owner of this data, he wants to put it. So it's his choice in the end, whether it's data or not.
There's a real problem on the project performance. I think there's real issue.
Because you have more commercial sensitive data, which might be.
And people get very upset even if you have the zip code or the base code.
Yes.
So yeah, related to that, when we heard about the platform, when it launched, I think the gentleman from, I forget the acronym, but he pulls together all the appliance manufacturers, and he has access to all the sales data for different appliances, so that's all proprietary and can't name anything, but this forum can create a vehicle for the publicly available, shareable insight from analysis that can be done with that data, so that more widely disseminate information that maybe individuals have. But also, his presentation talked about different places to look for data that we don't normally look for. And his example was, I had this one data set available to me, so I did some analysis on it. Oh, well, that was a very interesting and new trend that the sort of normal data tools didn't cover. So I think it's a way to integrate what we need in the broader sense of where data exists. At least that's the example we gave. I thought was really unique and useful. But I had a question about multiple benefits. You mentioned that well, it would be really good if these tools would have much more explicit criteria or flags or some way of identifying either projects or policies that are really effectively calling out the idea of multiple benefits in some useful way, because obviously we're looking for more sources and then we're looking for more just more reasons for people to start talking about it and requiring people to indicate that they've talked about it or that they've covered it in a project. That's, I think, a really unique and useful thing. And But I wasn't sure. It sounded like it was maybe going to be mentioned or flagged, but I didn't know if it was.
Well, I mentioned IE publication
Yeah.
of capturing multiple
Yeah.
benefits. It has a number of case studies on specific policies which were dealing with multiple benefits. And also on our website there is another publication which I didn't include on the presentation on also multiple benefits, or is it called four benefits? I'm not sure. It's also featuring a number of exact policies and what kind of multiple core benefits of energy efficiency were captured there. So
yes. So on that's got 25 examples globally where energy efficiency model benefits have been drawn out. They're difficult to do, but building on this energy efficiency model benefits paper from the IEA, they're also putting effort into it as well. So they're looking for some more case studies where they can do it, and we know that the benefits of doing this are huge in terms of expansion of projects or programs within a country or adoption of projects within a country. So it's really important, and it's a real sales pitch that we miss out on if we don't do it.
Yeah.
So I absolutely agree with you.
Maybe to answer your question, there is a difficult project in the Horizon 2020. It's called the Common Project. There will be presentations during this conference on this project. And this project answers a practical question.
Yeah.
The output of this project.
Yeah. That was, I guess, it is a big topic in this conference, so it would be good to make sure we have all the information.
Back to lunch, but just to summarise, we heard about the Copenhagen Centre's knowledge management system that really had a global perspective that was informed from information. It's a new platform and system that's there available for you to use. We heard about the energy efficiency platform from the European Commission that also has a very big data focus, and I think that it's great that we're going to be working together to make sure there's opportunities to build on what we're both doing. And a simple example might be the identification of experts that we can share. So we need to communicate. And then you heard from Ksenia about the huge effort, and I talked earlier about the SE for All Global Energy Efficiency Accelerator platform, and you've just heard some examples of some of the activities happening by the Buildings Accelerator that, a huge amount of effort from many different collaborators has gone into mapping these tools, and I think that information is really valuable to a country wanting to do something in the building sector. So I think that's valuable, and there's, obviously, Ksenia talked about some of the webinars involved there that are accessible for everyone. So I hope you found it as useful a session. One last quick comment.
Maybe that's for the next step of your platform. You speak about gathering, centralizing data and information. And will you then process this data? Because as Paolo said, one major issue we have is that it's really difficult to compare or to combine this data. So will there be some work within both initiatives to reprocess the data so that they can be used in a consistent way?
Yeah, I think so.
We can let the data like this with their own documentation.
Yeah, I think probably a key difference between the two platforms is that there is a bigger focus on sort of this analytical data in the European platform. I think that's a big difference. So I know that I was part of this sort of the launch event of this. I know that they're putting huge efforts into that. So certainly from the European Commission side, they're very keen to make sure they get good, accurate data on there. From our side, yes, we're going to be providing information and knowledge, but through the various tools and publications and resources. And some of that will involve data. There is that distinct difference between the two platforms. And so thank you very much, and enjoy your lunch, and we'll see you at 1:30.